British journalist and commentator says his detention by ICE agents this month was an attack on freedoms. Sami Hamdi was held by federal immigration agents for 18 days before being released and sent back to the United Kingdom. He gave a speech to the Council on Muslim-American Relations the day before he was detained. The U.S. State Department says it won't comment on specific cases, but a Department of Homeland Security official said in a social media post at the time, and I'm quoting now, under President Trump, those who support terrorism and undermine American national security will not be allowed to work or visit this country, end quote. Sami Hamdi is joining us right now. Sami, thanks so much for joining us. Tell us what exactly happened the day you were detained here in the United States.
Thank you very much for having me, Wolf. I think that what's important to note is that on the day that I was arrested, the Monday before, a far-right extreme activist, if you want to call her, called Laura Loomer, had posted a video saying that because I was criticizing the Israelis, there was an urgency to have my 10-year visa that expires in 2028 removed. I didn't take her tweet seriously. On the Wednesday, she tweeted that she had flown to Congress and met with officials and that, quote, I have good news coming to you in 2 days. On the Sunday, I had finished lectures on Friday in Bay Area. I'd finished lectures in Sacramento. Sunday, I was to fly to Florida and then New York and then to fly home. When I checked in my luggage, I passed through security. I looked up to see where gate D38 is to fly towards Tampa. And the man approached me and said, excuse me, are you Sami Hamdi? I said, yes. Your visa has been revoked, so now you are here illegally. I said, why has my visa been revoked? They said, here is the memo from the State Department. I read the memo. It did not state any reason whatsoever. When I asked them, okay, do you know the reason? They said, we don't have any reason. We just have orders to detain you. I told them I'll book my ticket and fly straight home to London. You know, I work in London. They said, that's not how this works. And 5 other agents suddenly appeared. Then they escorted me out of the airport and told me to get into a black car with tinted windows. I said to them, I'm a journalist and I'm a British citizen. I know my rights. This looks like a movie. I need to tell somebody where I am. Initially, they refused to let me use a phone, but when I insisted that I would not enter the car unless I let somebody know, I called a civil liberties organization, the Council of American Islamic Relations. And then when I asked to speak with my family, they pushed me against the car, handcuffed me from behind, put me in the car. I would then enter a van and then enter another car on a 6-hour journey to a facility in McFarland where I was detained for 18 days until 2 federal judges found that there were serious concerns over an infringement of freedom of speech, by which the government later approached and made a deal and said, listen, there won't be any charges whatsoever. Just go home and apply for a visa and come back to America later.
At any point, Sami, before that day, had anyone told you anything about your visa potentially being revoked?
There was no indication whatsoever that my visa was under review. No one contacted me to tell me it was under review. And to be quite frank, Wolf, I did not think that in the land of the brave, the land of freedom of speech, that somebody like Laura Loomer would be the arbiter of who gets to say what in the United States of America. It was even when I had sent the original tweet, when Laura Loomer had said, I'm going to get his visa revoked, when I sent it to the lawyer saying, is this an individual? I'd never heard of her before. Is this an individual I should be concerned about? And they said, this is still a land of law. This is a land where you have freedom of speech. No one is going to listen to somebody like Laura Loomer. And that's where I think the concern is here, in that a journalist with a 10-year visa, a short-term business visa, B1, B2, that entitles me to 6 months a year in America, that visa can be revoked because somebody was upset that I said that there shouldn't be a genocide in Palestine and that America should come first as opposed to the Israelis. The point here being is, I did not criticize the American government. My visa was revoked because I criticized a foreign government. It is a most bizarre and unusual situation. And when you have the World Cup coming next year, does this mean that if a fan raises a Palestinian flag, that they're going to revoke the visa without informing that fan and then detain them 18 days? And for the record, by the way, Wolf, the reason I think it was 18 days, the other inmates who have far more tragic stories than my story, the inmate said, the reason you're out in 18 days is because people are talking about you. People haven't forgotten you. Otherwise, you would be 8-9 months with us here. And the point that I'll make here is, just if you'll allow me to make this particular point, what I noticed with ICE is that when they know that the case can win in front of the courts, they try to trap you in the loopholes. For example, my original court hearing was the 6th of November. When they cuffed me and took me to Fresno in very tight cuffs until my leg was swollen, when I went to Fresno, they said to me, and they threw me in a cell, a 5x4 cell with 15 inmates in that particular cell, sleeping in the cuffs until the morning. They said to me, your court date has been moved from November 6th to November 10th. I said, why? They said, because on your charge sheet, which only charged me with overstaying because of the revocation of the visa, I know you mentioned the DHS tweet. Privately, none of those things that the DHS was saying were presented privately. And the DHS, while it was saying those things publicly, were privately saying, listen, can we just make a deal and just get this cleared up? When I went to Fresno, they told me the reason your court date has been moved is because on your charge sheet, it says that you landed in Santa Ana, California, which is true. I told them I did land. They said, we changed it to you were pre-cleared in Calgary, Canada, which is where I took off from. I said, I don't understand. They're both true. Why would my court be delayed 4 days as a result? They said, that's the way it works here. And this is why what you find with ICE and even these detentions, and this is the worry here, is that based on rule of law, this doesn't happen. The federal judge immediately said there's an infringement of freedom of speech. Then when the government challenged the jurisdiction, they said, as a foreign alien, I'm not entitled to freedom of speech. And a federal judge responded and said he is entitled to freedom of speech. What ICE would do to another inmate who doesn't have the media attention that I got is that somebody like Liqa Kurdiya in the facility in Texas, where a judge has ruled twice that she is to be released immediately, ICE, a for-profit organization that is allied with G4S and GEO, decide to keep her detained regardless in the hope that the rule of law will be subverted and that they'll find some way just to get rid of her from American soil. This is an attack on American freedoms, not on Sami Hamdi. It's an attack on the rule of law, and there are grave consequences if ICE are not held to account for the arbitrary manner in which they go after people who criticize foreign governments while celebrating rule of law in America.
Sami Hamdi, thanks so much for joining us, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much.